beautiful souls, and welcome back to Birds of a Feather. And I am Enlightened Peacock, and today's topic is ego. So, today's topic is ego, particularly that of ego and ego death, and how to know the difference between ego and your intuition. I wanted to crank this one out next because it is fresh in my mind because I just went through an ego death and I wanted to get this recorded before the memory isn't as fresh anymore. So, um, ego, what is the ego, first of all? A lot of people, when they hear the word ego, they think of people who are very high and mighty and think a lot of themselves. And while that is definitely an ego, an ego is also something that you build over time through experiences that protects you from pain. Everybody has an ego, whether you think you do or not. Everybody does. And it is something inside of you that it basically will try to manipulate what you see and how you see things and protect you and influence you to keep you comfortable and safe. So for example, if you over time of being in a relationship where you are manipulated and possibly even abused on multiple levels, physical, mentally, like doesn't matter if you've gone through a process of in a relationship or even a relationship with a parent or a partner where over time you develop this thick skin, this thick shell. um, some people will stay in those situations because they're afraid of what will happen if they leave, because they know what will happen if they stay in this relationship or if they stay at the place they are at, but they don't know what will happen if they leave because they will be on their own. And there's that big fear of the unknown. The ego will do everything in its power to try to keep you from being uncomfortable, even if that uncomfortable feeling that you get is a beneficial one that will help you be a better person over time. It will still try to keep you from that because it doesn't want you to feel that discomfort. It's trying to protect you. But unfortunately, our ego can be our biggest enemy and our biggest ally at the same time. Although it's trying to keep you from being uncomfortable, it's also keeping you from growing as a person. So that's why a lot of people, I'm just realizing every once in a while I can see my breath. It's that cold in here. um, so some people will stay in those relationships or they will stay in friendships with even parents that have treated them that way because the interaction that will happen between you and that person when you make that choice is going to be a very uncomfortable one, and it could lead to even more abuse. But it can also lead to your liberation and your freedom and your safety. It's just you have to get through a really difficult time to get to what you seek. And your ego is going to do everything it can. So it's going to make you doubt yourself, your strength, make you think that you're weak so that you'll stay, so that you will not have to go through that experience. Over time, unfortunately, that will be what causes the person to never leave or leave too late or unfortunately stay and not survive the relationship. That is a good example of the ego trying to protect us from being uncomfortable, but keeping us in a horrible place. The ego is also it's great at shielding what you see and making you see it through beer goggles, so to speak. So you can look back at a situation and think, geez, I was in the right. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't deserve the words that were said to me, or I didn't deserve what happened to me. And you'll look back and you'll see what you think is you being the victim. But in reality, a lot of the times we're not seeing things clearly because our ego was muddying our memories to make us see them the way that will keep us safe. And as long as we think that we are right and we are safe, we don't have to apologize. We don't have to feel bad. We don't have to make ourselves out to be a bad person in a situation. But if you can see past the ego's interpretation of how things happen, you will sometimes see that in fact you are in the wrong. You did say things that were maybe judgmental or not so nice, or you may have reacted in a way that you did not intend to, but you did, and it hurt them just the same. I'm just throwing some random examples out there that might apply to a bunch of people. I know that once my ego death happened, which I will go through what happened with me for mine, but once my ego death happened, it was like I could see all of the exchanges in my life where I had been wrong and played the victim or played innocent. And I couldn't see it before because my ego hid it from me and wouldn't allow me to see how I really was. So a lot of things came to light. A lot of my faults came to light that I could not see before. So this video, I'm going to try to relate it to other people as much as I can so that everybody can kind of understand and make sense of what I'm trying to get across. But I'm also going to dive deep into my own personal story because I find when I tell my story honestly and from the heart and without hiding anything, and I'm vulnerable, it helps you all connect better and maybe relate in your own life too. So, ego. So it protects you. It changes your perception to make you feel safe and secure at all times. So the ego is good. It does help. It does protect you. It'll make you forget things that were traumatizing. If something horrible happened to you as a child, for example, sometimes your ego will protect you by making you forget those memories. And they might come back to you later when you're older and you're more mentally capable of processing such an experience. A lot of rape and molestation victims, and even some people who go through physical abuse, they don't, sometimes they block the memories out because their mental capacity at that point in their lives cannot process that trauma, and it would very much kill them basically. So their ego tries to help them forget so that they don't have to protect them. But then those memories will come back later, and then they have to process them at that point in their lives instead, which is another example of something that's happened to me. So if you find yourself having a hard time determining what the difference is between an ego and intuition, because your ego sometimes will try to pretend to be your intuition to try to, again, protect you and keep you safe and comfortable. So, for example, if you're struggling with this huge decision in your life, so let's say you're at a job and you have another opportunity to work somewhere different, and you honestly don't know which one to do. You don't know if you should stay at your current job or if you should go to this new opportunity that you have in front of you. So people are always told to follow their instincts, follow their heart, follow their gut. So your intuition, solar plexus, you have to trust. That's why they call it your gut instinct, because it's in your gut. So your intuition, if it is exercised and you use it regularly and that you've got a lot of experience with it, it'll chime right in and tell you what you should do. But so will your ego. Your ego will also have an opinion in the matter, and it will make it known, especially if you have a strong ego that's used to being very protective of you because you've been through a lot. Find the people that go through the most trauma in their lives have built up the biggest egos, not because they're weak or because they're arrogant, but because they're strong and they've had to endure so much through their life that ego is huge, but those are also the people who unfortunately need to shed their ego the most, because then those people also tend to be the kind that think that they're right most of the time, or aren't as open to other people's opinions against theirs, or even people who will play a victim a lot. Not to say that they aren't the victim, because that's why they play the victim. They're just so used to playing the part of being the victim because they've been the victim so many times and been through trauma so many times, that they're just so used to playing the victim at that point. So at that point, they are the victim. And no matter what you tell them that they can do to get better, they will throw something back at you, that's some proven reason that there's no help for them, because they are used to being the victim and they want to remain that way, or at least the ego wants them to remain that way because it's what they're used to. So just stay where you've been. Don't change. If you are going to face a road, whether it be a career, a partner, some investment, some decision, life decision, moving, any decision that you are like, I don't know if this voice in my head is my ego or my intuition, I don't know which it is. Chances are, if you're more opposed to one versus the other because of the what ifs, or because of the uncomfortable experience that you will likely go through, that's usually the way you end up having to go. That's the way your intuition's telling you to go. Because your ego doesn't want you to be uncomfortable. Your ego doesn't want you to grow, because growth means pain. You cannot grow if you do not suffer trauma and go through painful process. There is no possible way to grow without pain. Take our bodies, for example. As we grow, we shed teeth and get bigger ones. Some kids go through growing pains where it physically hurts because they're growing, because they can feel their bodies stretching and growing and it hurts them. Those are people that are severely in tune with their bodies. And I bet you those people that went through growing pains as children are very sensitive to things and energies around them now as adults, because they're very in tune with their body and they always have been. When you grow, it's painful. And it's the same mentally and spiritually. When you grow mentally and you grow spiritually, it is painful. It has to be, or it's not going to be growth. You have to go through trials and tribulations and painful experiences to come out stronger on the other side and learn from the process. Because there are people out there that think the bad things just happen to them, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's bad luck. Bad things happen to them. Do you ever stop to think that the reason bad things keep happening to you over and over and over, especially similar scenarios like being cheated on over and over and over, or drawing a certain type of person that you don't want in your life over and over, or making the same mistakes in relationships or at work over and over and over? Do you ever stop to think that those are life lessons you were supposed to be learning, and you're not seeing and learning the lesson that you were supposed to have learned from that experience? So the universe is going to keep throwing that at you until you finally get it through your head and figure that life lesson out. How many relationships have to fail before you figure out what that life lesson is and what you're doing wrong that you need to fix? How many times do you have to enter into a job that you hate, work in a job that you despise for just enough money to live, and be miserable? How many times are you going to keep doing that until you figure out that life lesson, that there's more to life than that? Everything has a lesson in it. And this this video kind of took a turn a little bit, but it's a very my podcast, you will learn, I will start with a certain topic and I will just go like this with it, and I will always come back to it in the end, and they all tie in. So ego will keep you from growing. Ego is going to keep you from learning those life lessons. The ego is going to keep you safe, secure, and in routine. It doesn't want you to make changes in your life at all. So if you are experiencing any of these life choices right now, because from, if you believe in astrology, according to the way that the planets and stars are aligning right now, a lot of people are finding that they are at crossroads in their lives right now. If they haven't been in the last couple of months, they will be coming up. A lot of people are having to make very difficult decisions, ones they never thought that they would make, because they're at a point in their lives where they have to choose their own life's journey and their own happiness over what everybody else expects of them. So right now is a great time to learn the difference between your ego and your intuition, and try to tune into the one that you should be listening to more, and listen into the one that you shouldn't be listening to less. This is one of the reasons I wanted to rush this video out into the universe, was because the way that the world is going right now, I think more people need to hear this message. And the sooner I can get it out, the more people that will hear it sooner. So intuition is your gut. It is going to want you to grow. It is going to want you to take risks and make yourself uncomfortable for the sake of learning lessons. And there is no saying that if you follow your instincts and ignore your ego, that your instincts aren't going to lead you down really shitty paths. There is no saying that following your intuition is not going to lead you through something where in the end you're going to be like, why the fuck did my intuition tell me to do that? That was horrible. I would have never chose this path. But you're supposed to learn something from that path. The reason your intuition is telling you to go the direction it's telling you to go is because you need to learn something from that experience, whether you enjoy it or not. And if you don't learn that lesson, you're just going to keep being stuck in the same spot your whole life, unhappy, not learning lessons. And what's the point in living if you're not making yourself better in the process? What's the point of living if you're just here to be here, just to get through each day and breathe the air until you stop breathing? That does not sound like a very good life. And that's not why we're here at all. We are here to make a difference and to learn lessons. And that's what we're doing, most of us. So, how do you kill your ego? There are many, many ways to kill your ego. Some people have no control over it. Some people, it just happens to them and there's no avoiding it, and they don't know what the hell happened to them. And especially if this happens to you and you don't have anybody spiritual in your life that even understands this process themselves, and you think you're just fucking going nuts because what the hell just happened to me? The only reason I know what I went through was because I thankfully had other people in my life going through similar experiences that we could compare, and I knew in advance what it was like. So some people just start waking up on their own. Usually ego death, especially if it's naturally started, will start off as you slowly waken up, as we call it, because the mind is closed to a lot of the truth around you. It's manipulated, and projections of things is placed in front of you to manipulate what you see. It's very true when they say, like, don't let kids play violent video games because it'll program them to be violent people. Now, I am not saying that every child that plays a horrible shooting, killing video game is going to become some murderer or some violent child. Everybody is different. Every person is different in their susceptibility to the things in the world around them. However, some people, a lot of people, are very susceptible to things around them and will very easily change into what they're exposed to, because you are what you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with violence, you will become violent. If you surround yourself with happy things, you will be a happy person. You don't usually see happy people coming from abusive households where they're not happy. You don't usually see angry people come from happy households, unless it's not secretly happy and it just appears to be happy. You are what you surround yourself with. So if you don't want to be violent, why would you surround yourself with violence? If you don't want to be angry, why would you surround yourself with angry music? You usually find that when people listen to music, what type of music they are currently listening to reflects their thought process at that time. If they're happy, they're going to listen to happier music. If they're sad, they're going to listen to sadder music. If they're angry, they're going to listen to angry music. If they're calm, they're going to listen to calming music. You are what you surround yourself with. So yes, if you put 10 kids in front of a violent video game and have them play it, chances are 8 out of 10 of those kids are going to over time become angry. My son will play Minecraft, not a violent game. The most you do in that game is kill a couple animals. He will get angry every time he dies after like a couple of times of dying, and I'm like, okay, it's time to shut it off because this game is making you angry. You weren't like this before you played the game, so clearly it's manipulating you to become angry. So the things around you will manipulate you. Television manipulates you. The news manipulates you. It makes you into something else. It programs you. The whole world programs you to be what the world wants you to be. From the time you were born, your parents will influence you on what they want you to do for a career or what they want you to pursue academically. Your siblings will program you by trying to tell you what's cool to wear, or your friends even telling you what's cool to wear, what's neat, what should you do because it's everybody else is doing it. Everybody around you from the time you were born, especially to children, try to convince you what you should do, what's better, what's coolest, what's best for you. How many people ask you what you want? How many people ask their kids, what would you like to study this year? What would you like your profession to be? What would you like to buy for clothes for your closet? Not many people do that anymore. Most people just buy their kids what they want, sign their kids up for the classes they want. If their kid shows interest in a craft or a hobby or a profession that they don't approve of because it's not a, to their standards, decent career, they will usually express their dislike for that. But that's not their choice to make. That's their life path, not your life path. And most parents don't understand that anymore. Parents have to respect that even though they're their children, that they brought into this world, your job is to raise them as polite, responsible human beings that contribute to society. That's it. After that, they have to make their own choices, even if you don't like them. They have to make mistakes to learn life lessons, just like us. Children should be allowed to do that younger than they are. Most parents are very controlling nowadays, and in this world, I understand. But their egos are going to get huge and try to protect them. And they have to go through that process just like we do. So, go through difficult things to learn life lessons to become better people and grow. I completely got sidetracked again because I think I was trying to start explaining ego death. So over time, your ego builds up over ages and years and experiences. And some people, like I said, will start to lose their ego. They will start to wake up. So there's a thing in the middle of your head called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is in the absolute center of your head, right behind your eyebrows. And in a lot of cultures, it's referred to as the third eye. That's why some cultures wear jewels right there where their third eye is. So the pineal gland is your third eye. Over the years, there's a lot of things that we put into our bodies unknowingly that calcify that part of us. And this is, I just learned this recently actually. The pineal gland is the only part of our body that is of our brain that is not, it's whole. It's not fractioned down the middle. It's the only part of our brain that is one solid whole piece that's not fractioned down the middle and split into two hemispheres. That gets calcified by a lot of stuff we put in our bodies. Things like fluoride, which is in any town drinking water. If you drink town water, it is in that water. They load the shit in the waters that go through the town plantations. They do it on purpose. They're trying to calcify your third eye so that you cannot be awake, so that you're easier to manipulate and control, because they want the population to be easily manipulated and controlled into doing and thinking what they want them to. That's a whole nother rabbit hole to dive down later. These are the exciting ones I want to talk with Winter about, because we kind of feed off each other with those and it gets really interesting, theories and stuff. So fluoride. Fluoride is also in all your toothpaste, all your mouthwash. And a lot of bottled waters also have fluoride in them. That's why I stopped drinking bottled water. I only drink my well tap water and spring water out of the woods. And I only drink bottled if I have absolutely no other choice. I will not drink town water, especially if you live in a town that has a mill in it. Any town that has a mill in it, that water's toxic and like you're asking to get cancer if you drink that shit. Also aluminum. Aluminum is in so much stuff, including most deodorants. So deodorant, most of them have aluminum in them. That's what stops the smell. Aluminum will soak into your skin and also calcifies your pineal gland. It's also in most cooking pans that you cook with. So any like ceramic, Teflon, like any of those non-stick pans. The only pans that I know of that do not have aluminum in them are cast iron, or the stainless steel, or the glass. Those are the only ones that do not have aluminum in them. I've looked all of them up because I just wanted to buy a new set of pots and pans, and I wanted a set that did not have aluminum in them, and it was very difficult to find any that did not contain aluminum. So, if you cook with pans that have like the non-stick stuff on them, there's aluminum in that, and that does soak into your food. But things over time calcify your pineal gland. A lot of like sugars and corn syrups and like nasty food that you eat will also do it. Grease, like from fast food, will also do it. So people are becoming more and more asleep because they are eating fast food like crazy. They're consuming large amounts of things that are calcifying their pineal gland. And bottled water is one of the biggest ones, because unfortunately bottled water, most people drink that instead of tap now, and that shit all has fluoride in it. So if you eat a healthier lifestyle, more produce, especially organic produce that doesn't have pesticides on it, because the pesticides also calcify it. If you eat a healthier diet, it will help to calcify it. If you want, another way you can help to calcify your pineal gland is to take apple cider vinegar tablets. That's what I take. You can also drink apple cider vinegar if you have a strong enough stomach for it. I took like one tiny little sip of it and it made my stomach curdle and I couldn't do it. So I have to do the tablets instead because it's gentler on my stomach that way. But apple cider vinegar does decalcify. Getting a lot of sunlight helps. So if you don't spend a lot of time outside in the sun, the natural vitamins you get from the sun very greatly helps. I actually wish I was in the sun right now because I'm still freezing and I'm like watching the sun come in and it's not on me and I'm cold. So sunlight, being in nature also. Some people want to experience an ego death, so they will go through these experiences by taking plant medicine. There's a lot of different plant medicines out there that I'm even learning about still. Like there's a ton of them out there that will help you connect with the universe, because your birdies, oh, I keep getting distracted by the birds landing on the feeder. Your you're from the universe. Like the whole universe is connected. We are one huge energy source. We are God. We are all connected. We are all one. And when you do plant medicine, it helps open up part of your mind to connect to the universe and feel like you are all connected again, which is what happens when we die. We go back to the universe. So the reason they call it an ego death is because when your ego dies, you're essentially killing off a part of you, yourself, your ego, the part that protected you, the part that hid things from you to keep you safe and make you comfortable, the part that blurred your vision and manipulated what you saw. So that part of you dies when your ego dies. And when you do plant medicine, you are basically connected with God. You are connected with the universe. You're connected with Awa, with Source. And you know it. You see it. Some depending on what you take, sometimes you see visions, sometimes you feel things, sometimes you hear things that like all of them react differently in different people and all of them do different things. But in some way, shape, or form, a lot of the times when people take doses of plant medicine, especially high ones, they are connected to source and they know it and they realize there's something bigger out there. They realize what they're a part of, which is something huge, and they're not just some little ant, worker ant on the ground running around working to live and die. Like they understand the wholeness of the world and they come back from those journeys knowing the truth. And usually that's when their ego dies because their ego realizes they've been believing lies their whole life and they see the truth of the world and it allows them to see themselves for who they really are. And it's basically like wiping the slate clean. So my awakening started, which I'm probably going to tell this story like 100 times throughout this podcast. And I'm honestly not even sure if I've told the whole complete story yet. So my awakening happened in, I would say, August of 2021, last year. And I've always been kind of interested in spiritual stuff. I've always been drawn to it. I've never fully delved into it. Being brought up, I was not brought up in any religion, with the exception of sometimes my grandmother would take me to church, and she was Christian, and she would take me to church, and I would go to Sunday school sometimes, but it wasn't like I went every single week, and it wasn't something that I took into my adult life too awful seriously. Um, my parents were not believers, I don't believe, at least not that they ever told me. They never went to church, at least not as adults, and they never talked about it. So, but I also didn't have anybody spiritual that wasn't non-religious. I didn't have any spiritual people in my life. Anytime I was exposed to that type of environment, though, I was very interested and I definitely delved into it here and there. So witchcraft, I had a friend that was a Wiccan at one point in high school, and it very much interested me because witches and Wiccans basically believe most of the same stuff most spiritual people believe. It's just, we all believe the same thing. It's just been manipulated and warped to look different in different people's eyes. So I was very much into the Wiccan witchcraft thing at one point. And then I also got very interested in Native American stuff because they have, if I go and look at any types of spiritual or religious beliefs throughout the world, probably what Native Americans believe is more close to what I believe than anything else I've come across so far. So I very much love Native Americans' culture and spirituality beliefs. Um, and then I went through a phase where I was very interested in like just Buddhist stuff like that. I also went through a phase where I just liked anything hippie-ish, like 70s hippie. So I've always been interested. I've always delved into it and been drawn to it, but I never really dove into it. Because again, I didn't have anybody in my life that was into that lifestyle. Um, Last August, I ended up getting my level one Reiki attunement. And at that point in my life, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing with myself. I was lost. I was confused. I find a lot of people who go through ego deaths or spiritual awakenings, it comes when they're at a very low point in their lives. My life was good. I was in a marriage. I'm still in that marriage, a happy marriage. I have my 3 kids, very happy. We're living comfortably. We're living on a one salary income with my Scentsy business on the side as a side income for just like play money. And we were getting by comfortably. We were doing fine. Like I had no reason to not be happy, but I was very unfulfilled and I didn't know why. Being a mom was not enough. And as the only thing up until this point in my life that I'd accomplished was being a mom. I didn't have a career. I didn't go to college and get a degree in anything. I didn't have anything but hobbies to lean on. And hobbies is not a purpose in life. It's just something to do when you're bored, right? So I felt so lost, so unfulfilled. Like, what the heck am I gonna do? Like, do I just wait until my kids grow up and move out and then figure out what I want to do with myself? So I have to wait until the time is right. I just felt trapped in a life that I didn't see for myself and it wasn't fulfilling. And I was miserable. And I didn't tell anybody, kept this to myself. Went to a friend's dome, is it hostel, and he lives about 40 minutes away from here. And I went to stay for a couple of nights just to like a little nature retreat out in the woods to get away from everything and everyone that I knew. To think. I just wanted to think. I wanted to figure out my life. I wanted to figure out my future, figure out what the hell I wanted. And I spent most of the time that I was there, unfortunately, helping because they were short-handed and short card. And so I spent most of the time I was there just helping out. And then, little to my knowledge, my friend who I was hostel I went to stay at, he had just gone through an awakening process himself. He had just lived through a major start of an ego death and experienced some stuff. And the last day that I was there, that morning, we sat and talked for the first time since I'd been there because he was so busy. And he told me everything that he experienced. And it just, the whole thing shook me and is unbelievable as it sounded, all the stuff he was telling me, it all resonated with me. It all sounded true. It all sounded right. My instinct was like, yes, what he's saying is absolutely right. My ego was there in the background, like trying to tell me, no, he's crazy. Don't listen to him. What? But my gut was so much stronger on this one. It was like, no, there's something to this. Listen to him. He's right. So I went home that day and it kind of like talking to him triggered my own awakening. And it started slow at first. I just was a sponge. I wanted to learn more about everything and anything that I could find. So I just started watching videos and reading books, like so many books, and learning as much information as I could possibly learn. And I very much enjoyed it. And the more I read, the more my intuition kind of kicked in. And it was like telling me, okay, well, this sounds a little far-fetched. And okay, well, this one sounds completely plausible, but there's something about it that's not quite right. Like I could pick because there's so many different theories out there on how the universe works and how things work and how things are being done with the world. And a lot of them are pretty fucking crazy sounding. But some are very, very believable, and even the most believable ones, and even have scientific proof to back it up now, some people out there are just like, no, there's no such thing as time travel. There's no such thing as aliens. Like, come on, people. You think we're the only freaking people, like, beings in the entire universe? You think they're not already here? Some things are already proven. You can see video footage and pictures, and you have people, little whistleblowers, that tell you the truth, that worked for all these government facilities and stuff, and tell you this is true, but because they already got ahead of it and painted them as a crazy person beforehand, no one's going to believe their story no matter how true it is, because media already did its damage. And it's just, you wake up and you learn what's right. Like, you know from watching stuff what is right and what is not. Because there's some crazy stuff that they've thrown out there to make our crazy look even more crazy. To try, they're gonna literally will throw another conspiracy theorist right beside a real one that knows the truth, that just to make the other one look even crazier. Like, they do it on purpose so that no one will believe the truth. So there's just, you learn when you wake up and your ego dies and your intuition kicks in, what is right, what is wrong, and you can't explain why. You can't really tell someone, I just know that this one is right and this one is wrong. Like, it's just instinct. It's just your gut. And as long as you're learning to tell the difference between your instincts and your ego, as long as you can learn to decipher the difference between the two, just keep following your instincts. So, over the course of the last year, I've been waking up, so to speak, and going through a very slow, painful ego death. Um, and it comes in the form of life lessons. You have to kind of like you're learning lessons in real time, um, as you are experiencing your daily life from day to day. But when you wake up and you go through an ego death, you're also learning past life lessons that you might have missed. Memories will come back to you that you've forgotten, and you'll reprocess them differently now and understand what happened in that scenario that you missed before and learn on the lesson that you missed before. Um, Whether it be past relationships where you thought that the other person was always in the wrong, and then you're like, oh, man, I was a horrible wife. No wonder he left me. Like, stuff like that. You have to see yourself in a different point of view without your ego to cover it up. So, you're learning these lessons. I was learning lessons constantly. One day I would be like all top of the world, happy, like I'm manifesting and things are happening for me. And then the next day, some reality would hit me and I would learn another lesson, or I would backtrack and process another old memory that I didn't know what existed, and go through another lesson learning process where I have to sit and soak it all in and try to learn the lesson and try to drop a habit or re um re remember, I guess, a memory that I saw from one point of view. I have to like reprocess it in a different point of view so that when I look back at it in the future, I'll look back at it with the true memory, how it really happened, and with non-judgment attached instead of the way that I had originally viewed it with judgment attached. Because in the end, through all these life lessons we are trying to process over time, our common goals, we're trying to be selfless, we're trying to be non-judgmental, and we're trying to be full of love for everybody, and realize that we're all the same person. We're all the same being. We all came from the same place. And no matter how much someone does wrong or hurts other people, they were made that way because of traumas that they went through. And it's not usually their fault they are the way they are. And we have to have compassion for them and want better for them and forgive them because we are part of them, whether we like it or not. If you are wishing ill on anybody, whether they think they deserve it or not. You are wishing ill on yourself because they are part of you. That is what we are trying to learn in this life lesson together. And we're just learning in different ways over different amounts of time. And some of us will get these lessons and some won't. Not in this lifetime, at least. So lots of life lessons over the last year. Lots of processing and forgiveness and releasing. A lot of releasing stuff that does not serve, because one of my new favorite quotes right now is, you cannot see the future if you are looking back at your past. So you got to process it, learn the lesson you're supposed to learn from it, and let that energy go back where it came from and just let it go. If you say you've let something go, but you still talk about it and you still bring it up, you didn't let it go. Good pointer. So in October, I had a reading done by a friend, and they told me some stuff in the reading that was very spot on about my life the way it is right now and my current relationship. And it was basically saying that my relationship with my husband right now is very this. Our energy vibration levels do not meld. They clash with each other. And we're constantly headbutting. And it's not that either one of us is right or wrong. It's just that both of us are trying so hard to be heard by the other person. We're constantly raising our voices to speak over one another, and neither of us are being heard by the other. And in turn, we're both feeling hurt by each other. Not on purpose, just because both of us are trying so desperately to be heard, but we're not listening. And our vibrations being off whack is making it worse because they don't meld well together. So, she said that I need to focus on myself, focus on my journey, focus on my lessons I'm supposed to be learning, and focus on what I want, my dreams, my goals, because everything else is going to find its way and fall into place. But I need to focus on what I want, my goals, my dreams, my needs, my life journey. This is part of it, my podcast. So I've been slowly going over an ego death the last year, but it didn't actually fully happen completely until October. So 2 days, I think it was, a day or two after the reading I got, I was just like, my head was spinning. I was trying to figure out what she meant. I was trying to decipher things. My ego was greatly twisting the reading. The reading that I had gotten, I interpreted wrong when I first heard it. I was so in the moment and I was so enthralled with what she was saying that I heard it, but something about the way that my ego filtered it through to me made it sound like something different. Ended up having a conversation with a friend of mine, or message of them, I should say, about something that I had picked up in the reading that I thought was interpreted towards them. And after I'd sent the message, I went to a venue the next night, and while I was smoking a joint with a friend of mine while I was there, I was sitting in the back of the property by the tree line, away from people, and something pulled me out of my body. And I've astral projected before multiple times, but I astral projected out of my body, and I stood and looked down at myself, and all my memories from my life up until this point, where I had done something out of fear, anger, jealousy, any low vibration came back to me one by one in my head. Every single scenario, every single argument, every single decision that I've made where I did it not out of love, not out of selflessness, but out of a low vibrational energy like anger or fear or jealousy. It all came back to me. And I realized that was my judgment day, because they talk about in multiple religions there being a judgment day in the end where the deity that you worship when you die judges you for all of the things you've done throughout your life up until that point. And it weighs your good deeds against your bad deeds. So if this is to be believed and judgment day comes by God when we die, the day my soul died, my ego, not my soul, my ego, the day my ego died, I was judged by myself, because I am God. We are all God. We are all part of God. So I judged myself, and I just started crying. And it seemed like I was sitting there in this trance for like an hour, when in reality it was seconds. Only seconds had gone by. Because I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, I'm zoned right out. I can't move. I can't speak. All I could do was stare off into space. And my friend's sitting there probably thinking that I'm fucking crazy because I'm just gone out of my body at this point. And I'm like, God, like, I'm sitting here watching all these visions go through my head thinking, Jesus, I've been out of it for so long. Just saw so much. This must have taken so long. And when I come back, I'd only been gone for seconds, because you all right? Yeah, I'm good. But it's just like, all I remember is when I came out of it, I was fighting the tears. And when she asked me if I was okay, I was just like, I think my ego just died. And she was like, what? And it did. I felt my ego die, because after that moment, when I saw all these moments of my life go by where I thought that I was a good person doing great things selflessly for non-selfish reasons, there were all these little placements like, you were a liar. You have lied. Even if it's little white lies, you have lied. You have cheated. You have stolen. You have lusted after someone else's partner. You have lusted for multiple partners at multiple times. Like, I saw all these things in front of me, and I was like, wow, I've got a lot of work to do. Because if my scale is not right when I die, what the hell's gonna happen? Because I don't believe in hell. I know it's gonna happen. I'm gonna have to come back and do it again. And I would like to think I'm gonna get it right this time. So yeah, I was just like, I just wanted to go home. I went home early. I didn't stay as late as I'd planned. I waited for the band to finish that was playing, but I was like, I didn't stay any later. I was like, I needed to go. I needed to process. And it was a Sunday, so I had to go pick my kids up. So like, I spent the whole ride for like an hour and a half. I think it took me to get there to get my kids, like, crying and processing what I had just experienced. And then after that, the next day I woke up, I messaged the person I had originally messaged, because now I was seeing everything in a new light. That ego was gone. It wasn't there anymore to try to make this less uncomfortable. Um, it was gone. I killed it. It was dead, because I had been begging my spirit guides over the last year, please just let this be done and over with. Like, I just want my ego to die. I want it to be quick. I want to get it over with. I don't want to be doing this for years to come. Some people, ego deaths take years, and I'm like, I don't want to do this for years. I just want to do it now and get it over with. So I kept asking my spirit guides, please just let it happen already. And right as I was pulling out of the images that I was seeing and coming back to my body, one of the last things I heard was, you asked for this. So I did. I asked for it, and I got what I asked for. And I'm still glad I did it this way. I think this was the way I was supposed to do it. I don't do slow and gradual. I like to just dive in over my head and get into the deep quickly. So The next day, I did a cord cut in where I released a ton of energy that I've been clinging on to over the years that I didn't realize. Everything from projections of what people think of me and energies that people attach to me of their thoughts about me to thoughts about myself and thoughts I had about other people. I cut all ties, I cut all energy cords, I let all energy go back into the universe that was not mine, and I pulled all the energy back to myself that I had sent out into the universe attached to other people. I just called all of it back. And I just laid there on my meditation pillows and I felt empty and blank and like I was starting over. Like this Jasmine was fresh, untainted by the world around her and the people around her. And I could be and do whatever I wanted to be and do. And I went into a month-long depression. This last month has been a nightmare because I've been trying to break out of my old lifestyle with my ego constantly being there to shelter me and dull the uncomfortable feelings when things happen to me or when I do things to other people. Things as simple as me snapping at my kids with a short temper when they don't really deserve to be snapped at. Before, I did it all the time, nonchalantly, and I didn't react and I didn't bother me. It bothered me, annoyed me that I had to keep yelling at my kids to get them to listen to me. But it didn't bother me that I was yelling at my kids because my ego was like, this is okay. This is what you had done to you as a kid, so this is normal. This is fine. This is what you've always done. Just keep doing what you've always done. Now that my ego was dead, every time I snap at my kids, because it's habit, it's just reflex. My body instinctively, when my kids don't listen or yell at each other or fight, my body reacts the way it's always done. It spasms. It's like, okay, this is what you do when your kids are being naughty and you do it. But now when I do it, even when I don't want to do it, and it does it out of reflex when I don't want it to, as soon as I do it, I feel horrible because I'm like, one, my kids don't deserve to be yelled at for stupid shit like spilling a cup of milk. It's an accident. It's not the end of the world. And I know this, but it still hurts every time I do it because one, I know I'm hurting them when I do it. So I instinctively, automatically feel remorse and bad and shamed that I did it. And then I instantly have to like reel back and be like, I'm so sorry. But I've explained to my kids that I'm going through a process. I'm trying to leave the old me behind and take this new, better version of myself that's learned all these lessons and meld them together and only keep the best of both. It's a process. It's hard. It is very hard. I am reprogramming myself to drop old habits that were ingrained into me over my life that are no longer needed. I'm trying to untrain myself to drop my guard, basically. I have defensive mechanisms that I've created over the years that are now ingrained in me and automatically go off when things happen a certain way. When I get accused of something, I immediately get defensive and angry because that's just what I was taught to do because that's what people around me did. So I did it too. So now I'm trying to retrain myself. I don't need to do these things anymore. I can feel comfortable and non-judged and loved in my own skin and not feel like I have to constantly defend myself and be right about everything. I do not have to be right about everything. That is what I'm trying to train myself. And I could not do this if my ego were still attached because my ego would not let me change. It would not let me get better. And I knew as long as it was holding on, it was going to be a very, very long, hard ego death. And I would rather get it done and over with and enjoy the rest of my life as the newer, better me than have to constantly, for the next several years, get better. So, yeah, that was my ego death. And I'm just now coming out the other side of the dark hole of depression. I literally did just spend the last month with no ambition. I slept a lot. I still do, but it's also the time of year, so it's hard not to. But my body is also processing a lot emotionally and mentally with this change. So it's also tiring. So I do need to get more sleep. The needing more sleep isn't always just for depression reasons. It's also because your brain needs to rest. Even if especially if your mind is like mine and it's constantly thinking about something and constantly going, I I need to learn to quiet my mind more because it's exhausting. At the end of the day, it's just I want to go to bed at like 5 o'clock every night. And that's basically what I've done for the last month. I've gone to bed, I made my kids dinner, I fed them, cleaned up, and then I crawled into bed right after dinner, which we usually eat around 5 o'clock. So like 6 o'clock, I'm in bed. My kids have a couple hours left to watch TV or play. They do their thing. I lay in bed and watch TV and sulk and eat snacks that are horrible for me, and then I get up and I read my kids bedtime stories and I tuck them into bed and then I go back to bed again, and it's not healthy. um, but that's all I've had the energy to do for the last month, and it's just been a lot of binge eating junk food and smoking a lot of weed, which I did before anyway, but a lot more into unhealthy extents, um, and for not the right reasons, because um, I was smoking and eating junk food to dull the pain that I was feeling from being able to feel everything fully now. Um, and eating junk food and smoking weed was what made it more bearable, unfortunately. And now I am trying to eat healthier again, and I am weaning off of a lot of the junk food. And I'm smoking for different reasons now. I'm not doing it to dull anything. I'm actually doing it to amplify and get creative. I'm using it for a creative outlet now instead. So, different motives make a huge difference. So, yeah. So that is my ego death story. I'm finally coming out on the other side and I see the sun again and I'm happy again, and I'm still processing and I'm still making adjustments and changes and learning lessons, and it'll never end, because even if you do go through an ego death, you still continue through your entire life until you die to go through tribulations and lessons, and even the people that paint a very pretty picture of their life and how happy they are in it, I guarantee there's still stuff happening behind the scenes that people don't know about that are life lessons they're learning. So don't always think that what people post on their Facebook is all of what they are. Social media has made it very difficult to connect with humans on a soul level anymore. And I'm thankful to have a soul tribe close enough to me in my state that I know understands me better than most, even when we can't be together physically, because we've bonded physically at one point, and when we see each other online, we just kind of feel that bond still. So, uh, this one got deep. If you ever have a suggestion for a topic you'd love to hear us talk about, we talk about all things spirituality and conspiracies and the universe and astrology and law of attraction, like all that stuff. I love talking about that stuff. So, and I'm hoping to soon get a couple other guests on the podcast to talk to about things that they would know more about than me. So thank you for joining me. This has been Birds of a Feather. Where's my gong? And I am the Enlightened Peacock, and I will see you next time.